We are doing just fine. Welcome. Good morning, Sonder family. It's so good to see you. It's a super Saturday. It's a 3-day weekend, hopefully for most of you. Some of our educators may be on day one of summertime. I know yesterday was the last day of school. I live literally right outside this window is an elementary school. And so we got to watch all the goodbyes yesterday. I'm gonna miss my little neighbors during the summertime. But we are gathered here together this morning to kind of close out May and our month of simplicity. Of course, a moment of thanks to any of you who have had soldiers in your life who died while serving our country. That's what we remember on this Memorial Day. And I wanted to make sure we put a little graphic up to remember that. It's also like the unofficial start of summer and all those good things, but just a word of thanks for those who served so that we could have our time together. um, y'all, Mayha has some workshops coming up, and the ones on the left side of the screen will be on June 3rd. And there's an evening and an afternoon social. And then another set of socials on June 5th, which will also be a midday and an evening. You can scan in that QR code right now, and that will take you to Eventbrite, and you can grab those places for these little mini webinars. They're going to be about 45 minutes long. It will be inclusive of our AI life coach app and how that can work in your life. When we look at that wonderful application for how, how does it work for me as an Enneagram 6, as an ENFJ, as it takes all those things into account, your Myers-Briggs, your saboteurs, your attachment styles, and she's going to show how all of that can be worked out through burnout, through balancing life, through being stuck in through feeling, analysis paralysis. So these are great little mini workshops. And even if you're not using the life coach, it's not in your budget, or you're still kind of not sure about that, the information she shares at these mini webinars is gold. So I would encourage you to either sign up and go, during the time, or make sure you make a note to watch for them on the YouTube channel and go pick them up and catch them later. They're good stuff. I love when Mayha share, because her passion for her company and what she does for us just exudes during those times. I love when we can get her on camera. Um, if you are here for the first time, just drop a me in the chat. There's no pressure. This is cameras off, mics off event, but we would love to welcome anybody who's checking out a social for the first time. I don't even know if I said who I am. I'm Jennifer Ogilvy, coming to you from the Dallas, Texas area, and there's always two of us on these calls. And so my sidekick today is Bailey Grady, who's coming to you from Tennessee. Hey, Michelle, we're glad you're here. Bailey's popping on. We're both in pink. We didn't plan that, but she'll be hanging out. Bailey's in the chat, providing support along the way if you have some questions, or if you needed a link again or something like that, she'll drop that in the chat. But we always like to make sure we welcome those of you who this is your appointment and you're going to be here no matter what, because you want to use your journal to its max. And so these appointments hold you hold yourself accountable by hanging out at socials. But also the bonus is we get this fabulous community. I always say we are built to be in connection with each other. And so we're glad you're here. Speaking of community, we have guidelines when we are hanging out, just to make sure that we're always creating safe spaces So, since there it looks like there's a whole lot of us who are returning, I won't go through those, but I know that you've seen these. Be sure you kind of look over that. We do want to make sure we always keep this space the safest it can be, and we are wrapping up our month of simplicity. I've been using this quote because it's really spoken to me that it means to eliminate the unnecessary so the necessary may speak. And that's kind of the I've shared I'm not a minimalist. I'm not gonna get rid of everything in my house, and I tend to load on too many commitments to my life, but it really has helped me step back and look at what is unnecessary that I can get rid of. I hope you've enjoyed your journey through simplicity. I'm getting real excited about purpose for June, and I love, how these themes have really seemed to support one another as we've rolled along. So it's kind of nice if we look at what simplicity looks like to our life. It really helps us define purpose. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful connection. Our time together this morning, we're going to finish up that simplicity mind map. We're going to do our rosebud thorn reflection. And then I've got a lot of examples from our Sonder community to share with you as we look at setting up our pages today. So, this is week 4. If you are here for the very first time, like Michelle's just joining us. Michelle, we do a deep dive into the theme for the month, right? And so this is going to always be bonus prompts, our mind map. And we're going to encourage you to go to a blank page in your journal. You can do this on a separate page, quote page, weekly scratch pad, sticky notes. Maybe you have an extra sidekick journal that your thoughts journal, and you use that. So this can be done anywhere. It is a bonus prompt. You won't find it in your journal, but it's one of the things that makes our weekly setup special because it is a deeper dig into that theme for the month. And we have done 4 months of journeying with 4 weeks of journeying with the month of simplicity. Week 1 was really examining our physical possessions that we are holding on to, but maybe we shouldn't. They don't serve a purpose anymore. Week 2 was looking at those commitments, activities, the things that are taking our time, and really looking at how do we make space for what truly matters. Last week was just where are you feeling overwhelmed in your life? And then this week is imagining our life a year from now. I always love the future you prompts. Thinking about, if we've intentionally embraced simplicity, just because May is over doesn't mean that simplicity in our life is over. And so we're going to look at how our daily life looks and feels. Um, so I have some ideas for you to frame this out. So let me go through those, and then I'll put on some music to so that you can kind of start digging into your page. Now, again, feel free to grab a screenshot of these questions. Michelle, there's no pressure. If you want to go back and do all of these as you kind of reflect on simplicity, that's great. Or you can just join us and think about a year from now. So I love this graphic about future me and present me and the things you're doing now, how it pays off for future you. So some tips about imagining that is like think about where you are right now and then gently shift over to a year from now. What does May of 2026 look like? Think about what you do in a typical day, maybe what your home feels like, if that clutter challenge spoke to you, getting rid of the things that don't serve you, or think about your relationships, right? That's kind of big. Something else, I loved this graphic. Dear me, you're handling situations better than your old self would. Celebrate that. So maybe thinking about a year from now, wrapping it up with a reflection that kind of talks about your emotional experience through this lens of simplicity. So your prompt, your answer could look something like this. It's not that life became perfect, But in stripping away the unnecessary, I uncovered ease, and that ease has become my favorite rhythm. Or perhaps you've cleared your plate a little bit and you are now experiencing complete JOMO, the joy of missing out, of feeling content with staying in and disconnecting as a source of self care. So think about maybe the things that you've said no to, those opportunities that you said no to, the habits you released, the commitments you didn't renew, the digital noise you silenced, or perhaps this prompt is a culmination of all three. I actually went back to my definition of simplicity that I wrote at the beginning of this month. And I kinda did a word cloud for that. So I looked at that, and then I went and hung out with my life coach for a minute, and I asked Jenny to help me think about what my future would look like through the lens of simplicity, embracing the things that I think simplicity means, and, together, we landed on I have an unhurried morning routine after a restful, full night's sleep. My daily focus is quality, not quantity, especially with responsibilities and relationships. I am thriving, guided by the belief that I am enough and that I have enough. So I'm going to put on some music while you start thinking about this reflection. I'll go back and forth between these slides. Let us know what's coming up for you. I know that you might still be considering how simplicity has impacted your life this month and what a year from now will look like. Let that kind of hang around in your head. I feel like I could write like for an hour on this one, right? Like, what does a year from now really truly look like? But we only have that much time together, so we've got to move on. But continue to let this kind of I always say marinate in your mind, to think about what your next year is gonna look like and what May 2026 is gonna look like through this lens of simplicity. So I'm gonna invite you to turn to page 50 in your May's journal, and if you are sitting with June, we'll be able to jump into that one for our setup. But if you don't have May and you want to just do this on a scratch sheet of paper, you can. But this is our weekly rosebud thorn reflection. And this week it's on page 50. And, our thorns are those things that caused little hiccups or big hiccups or just the things that didn't go well that were stressful. For me, I worked on our front hedges and I had a couple of mishaps. I'm fine, but I managed to take the little I don't know what it's called, whatever, that cuts off the top. It's electric. I managed to slice a water hose that in half, and, I also managed to slice the electrical cord in half. So, had a couple of mishaps, but I'm safe. Yay for ground fault interrupters, but dadgummit, I'm trying to be all Miss Independent, and so that was my thorn this week. The bud is the same as last week for me. We're looking forward to our family trip to Florida with the green kids, and that'll be, gosh, now we're looking at less than a month. And I'm just really excited. I'm so looking forward to making those memories. And then the rose was something you're grateful for, the positive thing, the thing you're celebrating. And I just wanted to share with y'all, I kept my littles while the big grandkid was at a baseball game, and I put the littles to bed, and I was laying in my granddaughter's bed with her. Her name is Austin Louise, and we were just chatting, and she turned over and looked at me and she said, "Jojo, when did you always want to be a grandma when you grew up?" Y'all, I was like, I told her, I said, "Austin, I think I did." And it was just that little moment that made me feel so purposeful with this chapter in my life. So, please drop in the chat the things that you're celebrating this week and the things that maybe aren't going so well that we can just send you some good vibes. And then we'll get on with our setup. Thank you for working on this reflection. There are some exciting things coming y'all's ways. I'm laughing. Katie just posted that Chat GPT's been running her life, and it woke her up at 5 o'clock this morning, and, but she stuck to it. Yeah, you really want a nap. It's the weekend, it's a long weekend. Lots of graduations, lots of opportunities to celebrate grads in your life, or to maybe be an adult that had a big influence on a grad, and so they've called you out for that. Thank you for sharing. I'm looking, we've got some health stuff, y'all. I'm sorry about the health. Goodness, broken bones and not feeling well, and that's I'm going through the chat. So, and then Marianne asked if you can have like the same thing be, two of these things. And I was sharing the week that my husband had one of his knees done. It was like my rosebud thorn was that. It was the one thing, but it fit all three. So a reminder that one thing could be many things, right? We see the blessings and stuff, but we also have the hardships. So anyhow, y'all just keep dropping those things in there. You're never alone, and you've got your Sonder family supporting you through those. So thank you for sharing. And speaking of sharing, we would love to see parts of your setup if you're comfortable in Sonder Club, because what you share can inspire others. And it also gives us some fun things to pull for our times together. So I want to make sure that I invite you to do that. So now, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Weekly planner. So are we finishing up in the month of May, right? That's what I'm doing. I'm going to finish my month of May, but you may be ready to, to jump into June because the week is there. And so I'm actually going to use my in June, I'm going to use my this week, I'm gonna use these pages. I think I'm gonna make like a bingo board in there for June on like page 28. I might do a bingo board, but so I'm gonna finish up May in this journal. So there's not a right or wrong. Y'all get to decide. I always say if if the month's been a trash fire and you need a fresh beginning, go into your new journal. But yeah, yeah. Savannah says April has been rough. How about May? Savannah, I think April and May must have been. So go ahead and move into June and get started with that brand new one. So yeah. A long trek for sure, for sure. So, that new fresh start with this weekend that kind of is the unofficial start of summer. I say go for it. So turn to pages 52 and 53 in May, or 26 and 27 in June, and we're going to get going with our weekly setup. Now, you are always invited to use your pages just as they are printed. We've got these spaces to put some of the things that are important in your life, to plug things in and to consider, but you can also repurpose. And that's kind of one of the reasons we're saying share what you do in Sonder Club so that we can share a lot of these repurposing. Here's a lot of things that could be, it's not an exhaustive list. I always share this list, and it's pretty stagnant because, but all these different ideas that I've pulled from y'all, here's a good portion of those that folks will change up some of these spaces to fit their life. Y'all know I'm a gardener, so right now my shopping list is my garden bingo, all the things I need to do in my yard and garden every single week. Um, anyhow, so let's move on. So here's a couple of examples to share with you. You can see I love both of these. I love being able to put these up and talk about, like, it's kind of fun to peek in other people's journals, right? And so I thought this was a really fun thing. How do I want to feel? Unruffled. And then the little sketches of dresses. Yes, and no thanks to all the ruffles. And then you can see that went down, and what does that look like? Well, there's the 3 goals, and then those goals informed the to-do list. I'm talking about the one on the left, and the to-do list is more and less. So what do I want more of this week? What do I want less of this week? So love that. Their habits and activities, there's not a goal set. They're just going to be tracking. The one on the right, look, lots of different feelings for the week, really focusing on that. Very simple goals. Boom, boom, boom. The to-dos are a to-do list, but done in a bingo form, just to gamify it, to kind of get, when we play games like that, it actually does a lot in our brain with those good, happy chemicals, the dopamine, the serotonin, the endorphins when you're gamifying your life. The person on the right, it has set goals for these things to happen a certain number of times. So there we go. Yeah, the little black dress over there in the unruffled. I love that. So there's a couple of pages that we get to peek in and look and see what folks are doing. So I want to ask you now, how do you want to feel this week? You can kind of do a self-check and think about how you're feeling right now. And there's a lot of ways to set this up. You can use stickers, quotes. There's a bunch of words. Maybe something's jumping out at you. And I loved this graphic that I just found. Feelings are signals, not orders. You don't have to act on every feeling. So, really embrace the good stuff, and leave some stuff behind. And then here's some great examples from y'all with stickers, with I want to feel more of and less of, some fun little graphics, positive blooming, happy. You can see just be brave and take risks. I always do love the less and more, like less pressure and more peace. Y'all are dropping in the chat now. Positive. Amelia says confident and refreshed. What else? What else is coming up for you this week as we kind of kick off summer? Bailey's going to go ahead and use that. Calling in serenity. I love that. Love that. That's the word of the year for her. So if you have a word of the year, maybe that's been showing up every single week to keep it top of mind. Focused productivity. You want to feel respected. I love that, Dawn. So go ahead and drop that feeling into the chat. The thing you want to embrace this week. What do you know? And last week I encouraged you to think about, if you're checking in with yourself and your feelings are kind of what can you do to, without sounding too Pollyanna, what can you do to turn that frown upside down? Like what is the opposite if you want to change that and embrace that for the week. So we're going to take that feeling now and it's going to help us define our goals, which will help us fill out our to-dos for the week. Now, we are sitting here on the last week of May, right? Um, how is it going for you? I want you to maybe consider taking a quick flip back to page 8 and 9 and look at the things that you said you wanted to start, stop, and continue this month. And look at your intention page. And are you aligned at the end of the month with the things that you desired at the beginning of the month? And perhaps there's something, a shift you could make this week to finish strong in something that was really speaking to your heart a few weeks ago. Now, if things have changed, that's okay. Oh, Jen, well, thanks. Thanks for posting. That is Jen's stop, start, and continue box. So she put that look at your stop, start, and continue as one of her habits and activities so that she would be directed back to that so that it was top of mind for her. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. So I think it's worth looking at what we wanted to embrace for May as we're finishing up this month. Now, this is not you're not grading yourself. This is something that's written on paper. It's neutral, but it is a good reminder. And if things didn't go well, it kind of helps you start thinking about June as we start, we're going to be setting up our um new journal soon. So you're again, I'm going to point you back for your three goals. Go look at that intention page. Maybe look at that habit tracker. Finish off simplicity. Maybe there's one little thing you can really be sure you're starting this week. So for that May of 2026. And then, at the end of the month, I'm look back, what's outstanding. Maybe just all the undones roll into this page and it's just a week of get her done. You can also repurpose this space. If the goals are not speaking to you this week, or maybe you're just going to flip back and just go finish those things up, perhaps you put something else here. So songs, ways to embrace our new season, the movies or podcasts you want to have in your life this week, quotes. And then I put here is someone's routine for the day, that daily check in. Perhaps you put your rhythm and routine there. So it's really, really up to you how you use this space. Of course, we always shout out to the no goals. What are you taking away? Again, through that lens of simplicity, that's perfect. But also, those no goals can also inform your to do list or your not to do list, right? Maybe you're doing a personal challenge this week. So, this person's feelings were, I want to feel alive, aware, and able. And then they've incorporated that into their goals for the week, kind of those categories, that mindset of categories. Let's see here. We've got, again, speaking of categories, here's several examples of doing those three categories and plug in a goal in. So I always love that. Perhaps your categories is something about simplicity. So maybe your physical and your emotional state. You plug in that simplification through that. Some great examples here. The one on the bottom left is an oldie that I rediscovered. So their three goals are care, create, and clean. And then they've written down sort of what that looks like. And I'm going to go through all of these while you are working on this page. I always think this is so effective to take your goals and inform your to-do. So you've got your goals and then the to-dos to make those goals happen. So here's some wonderful examples of how folks have done that. We've got the to-do list here, and I thought this was pretty neat, the one on the right. So maybe you kind of change your to-do list up into something else, like a to-do list or a bingo board, but your to-do list that drives your week could be put on your weekly spread, like the example you see there on the right. I thought that was a really great use of those pages. So that's kind of neat. Oh, Mary Ellen is retiring in June and she has pioneering for the month of June. That is a great theme for your month. So maybe your to-do list does go into the weekly spread. So you do a to-do list where you leave this blank and celebrate all the extra things you do. Or perhaps you embrace the idea of how do you want to be this week and you have a to-be list. And then that will drop us right down into those habits and activities. And a reminder, these shouldn't be brand new every single week. You should see some of those same habit and activities on here, because we don't want to start with brand new things all the time. We want to make sure we're doing things consistently to help them become established. So this graphic is actually from James Clear. We know him from the Atomic Habits book, which is a life game changer. Go read that if you're struggling with habits and activities. He says, you're going to miss. That's okay. Just really shoot for not missing two times in a row. And I think when we see a number of days clustered like this and we see some misses, we can really celebrate the times we hit the goals, the many, many times we did the thing. So be sure to celebrate that. Now, I love this habit and activity tracker. We've got the monthly one those are the things we want to do most days of the month, but this one can be changed up depending on the kind of week you're going to have. And so, that's where the idea of activity, like what activities are being brought to you this week. If you look at the top kind of rightish one, I've circled that bottom one. They want to do chores and tasks 4 to 6 times this week, but they are pairing it with a podcast. So they're doing two habits or two activities stacked together. This is such a good tool to make sure that things happen when you pair things together, especially like your chores and tasks. Maybe that you're really good at doing that, but you're really trying to incorporate a learning goal in there by listening to podcasts. So you're going to pair that podcast with the thing that you're already doing. Maybe brushing your teeth every day is a no-brainer, but you're forgetting your vitamins. So you could pair your vitamins with brushing teeth, right? Doing the thing that's easy and then pairing the new thing with that. I love habit stacking. That really works for me. You can see folks have shared days that they want particular things to happen. You are invited to set goals or not have goals. It's really what works for you. You see the one in the middle on the left, they're only doing three habits activities, but they're shooting for 7 times. So that consistency. The one below that, the very bottom left, is kind of gamifying. They're doing something 5 times, 4 times, 3 times, etc. And they've already chosen the days for those things to happen. So lots of ways to use this tracker so that you can be successful. The one in the middle with the little kitty cat, not tracking goals, but I want you to notice one of the things that they are looking at is to that very bottom thing, monthly trackers. So that self check-in, that accountability to go look at the habit tracker, the mood tracker. And so here's some other ones. Y'all, I love this one. On the upper, they've done a little quadrant or I guess it's, 3 things. I'm wondering if this wasn't like meds or 3 times a day, but made a little ladybug out of that as that gets completed. And then, you see again at the bottom, just 1 day limit social media or doing it 3 times, but they've circled those 3 days to limit. So it's just one item that has specific days associated with it. Um, the one over there on the right, they're just tracking 4 things, a great reminder that you don't have to fill in all the lines. You know what your week is bringing. And then there's some habit and activity tracker ideas to drop in there. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to go back through all of these slides and I would love to know, like, are you repurposing anything? What are your goals for the week? When we write them down, there's a lot of power in doing that. And then when we shout it out to our community, we've sort of already, our brain is triggered that we're looking for some accountability with one another. So feel free to share in the chat as you're comfortable what you're doing with this page. And then we'll come back and we'll do the next page. while you finish setting up this page, we're going to pop over to the next page and I'm going to have some examples to show you of how you can set that up. Thank you for sharing in the chat. I love that. Would love to see some of these posted in Sonder Club. Annalisa says her three goals are protect quiet spaces. I love that through that lens of simplicity, Annalisa. That's so good. And then simplify life areas like the tasks and obligations, and then respond gently. Ooh, taking that little moment. That's a wise that's a wise goal for the week. So our second page has this meal planner, the Mind Body Health Plan, our shopping list, and the I Am Loving box. I'm going to ask you now if you'll hang around till the end. We're going to share our I Am Lovings as we exit today. But let's take a look at the two meal planners on these examples. They have been repurposed. So one is kind of the priorities, the to-dos, but the biggies that have to happen. The one on the left there, some of the activities that have to, and I love that they've written at the top that prioritize, focus on one task at a time. So that reminder, right, to stay focused. And then the one over on the right is just celebrating my victories are going there. The Mind Body Health Plan, just some good reminders on both of these. One is filled with stickers. We always say those stickers want to be stuck, as well as their shopping list, with some positive words. The shopping list over on the left has a little, again, that fun bingo board that gamifies life. So let's dig in and break these down into different sections. We'll start with the meal planner, which can absolutely be used as a meal planner or a meal tracker. Perhaps you do like the one on the left, and it's just kind of your main meal of the day. Someone is going to track fruits and veggies, the one in the upper middle there. This could also be used to do like the macro breakdown if you're concentrating on things like that, like protein, carbs, fats. But also a ton of repurposing can happen with the space. We love those fun little boxes there. Consider the idea of a daily rosebud thorn reflection, right? Isn't that nice? The one on the left there, delightful life. It looks like that person is embracing a beautiful quote to guide each day. We always love the meal plan for my soul. So just these little miniature journal prompts, a get it done list. So really having that front and center written out there. Um, Here's a bunch of what it can look like to repurpose there. Maybe using it as a symptom or health tracker, your daily scripture, a daily debrief, a wardrobe tracker, a packing list. I used to write down what I wore to school because the kids would like, didn't she wear that Monday? They keep track. So I didn't. So I started writing that down. Didn't have the journal at that time to do it. Word of the day, maybe a daily haiku. Learnings, energy level. I think I shared this one last week where just kind of rating that energy of the day and maybe doing a little journal reflection on that, or journal prompts. Look at the post-it notes there at the bottom right where you put your little prompt on the front and then you can flip over for your answer. Of course, the water droplets, remember to track that hydration. We're going to scoot over and look at that mind body health plan. This is always kind of that for me. This is the self-care spot, right? This is how I take care of Jennifer in whatever way the week is calling me to do. Sometimes it's very grown-up stuff like, go balance the checkbook and pay the bills. That's self-care, but sometimes it's also the fun stuff like paint my toenails. That could be a really good place to put an end of the month check-in if you're kind of reflecting over this month. So grab a screenshot if that's something that's speaking to you to put in one of these spaces this week. Maybe this goes in your meal planner, or the shopping list. All of these can be kind of jumbled around as you see fit. Again, maybe mixing up your routine or doing a little reflection of how you've nourished your mind, your body, your soul, whatever is speaking to you to take care of you. Love this graphic 5-minute self care ideas for very busy people. If you are not on Instagram, or on the Silk and Sonder Instagram page, be sure you follow that because there are little nuggets of gold throughout the week that can really help you reset your day. And that's where this 5-minute self care graphic came from. Let's see. Oh, I love the one over there on the right because they went mind spirit health plan. They've changed that up a little bit, but you can see that there are some big silk and solder things here. Like they're going to do the daily ritual. They were looking at coloring, their coloring page, doing the one of the journal prompt exercises. So really being intentional with that journal. Are there some empty pages in your journal that you could work on this week? It's always fun to do alliteration day, so there's some great examples of that. Um, we've got I loved the one on the upper left because one of their things they want to do is coloring. You know, I love the coloring pages, but all of those things are things that are going to reset their mind. Look at the things that they put on there. Some of them are very physical, some of them are very quiet. So it's about feeding all those parts of your body and giving yourself balance in there. The graphic that's on the right is actually one of my gratitude reflections, and I took this from Martin Seligman's idea of a flourishing life. And so every day I asked myself these three questions. What am I grateful for? What was my role in that gratitude? And what positive emotion did I experience? So just quick little blurbs on each one of those days. I turned it sideways so that you could see that, but that was a really great exercise in daily gratitudes. Perhaps you have this fabulous sticker set and you create a self care bingo in the mind body health space there. And then the shopping list, again, another space that can be repurposed. Of course, it can be a shopping list, but any of the things we've talked about could go in there. And then here are some repurposing that Sonder family has done. Again, talking about a packing list. Social, I love the social check-in, that intentionality with connecting to the people in your life. Maybe your main meal plan goes here, like the one that you see on the upper left. Um, Love this, the joyful things of life. Bookish nonsense. I think we've got like somebody who is a crazy reader because look at all those books for the week. So perhaps they're heading to the library. I don't know how they're using that. That's a lot of a lot of books being read. Maybe you do a mind, body, soul reflection here where you've got some things to go to really take care of yourself. Or we all love a bingo. So there's the bingo for that. You can see those. Love that. So let me just, oh my gosh, Janine. Okay, go take care of your husband. This is being recorded. You can access this. Let me put on some music while you work on this page and tell us if you are repurposing, tell us what you're doing. We want to know. And then we're going to be back to close out with what we are loving and sharing that with one another. You know what they say about this being the fastest hour of our week. I want to thank you so much for joining Bailey and me this morning as we look at the last week of May, the last week of simplicity. There are the songs that were played this morning, and I love Eric Carle, the Very Hungry Caterpillar author, and he says, "Simplify, slow down, be kind, and don't forget to have art in your life." Music, paintings, theater, dance, and sunset. So I hope you can find some of that this weekend. As we exit, please drop in the chat. What is one simple thing you are loving this week? And we will see you soon, Sonder family.